Gaslighting. When someone keeps insisting you're crazy, at first you don't buy it. You know yourself, you trust your own mind. But slowly, something shifts. You start wondering, maybe you are difficult. Maybe you do overreact. Maybe you're not as reasonable as you thought. And once that seed of doubt takes root, it grows. Before you know it, you begin to believe the very thing you once rejected. Maybe they're right. That's gaslighting. It's not just lying, it's replacing your reality with theirs. It's a psychological weapon that makes you question what's real until you start depending on the person manipulating you. The term comes from the 1944 movie Gaslight, where a husband makes his wife believe she's going insane. He dims the lights, then denies it. The point? To make her doubt herself so completely that she becomes dependent on him. But this isn't just a plot line. It happens in toxic relationships, cults, politics, even at work. It begins subtly. They deny something they clearly said or did. You know it happened, but they insist it didn't. Over time, the repeated denial starts to break your confidence. Then they come for your mind. You're too sensitive. You overthink everything. You're always dramatic. You begin to question your own reactions. Then comes emotional invalidation. Every time you react, they make you feel wrong for it. You stop trusting your emotions. You apologize for things that weren't your fault. And finally, they isolate you. They don't want other voices influencing you. Your friends are bad for you. Your family doesn't get it. Bit by bit, they cut off your support until they're the only one left. And by then, they don't have to gaslight you anymore. You do it to yourself. Gaslighting doesn't just change how you think. It changes who you are. It rewrites your identity. And when the truth finally hits, if it ever does, it feels impossible to escape. Because if you can't even trust your own mind, how do you? Brainwashing. Today we see people so deeply brainwashed, they reject reality itself. They believe things that make no sense, defend the indefensible, and deny even the most basic truths. But how does that happen? What turns a rational person into someone who no longer questions anything? Brainwashing isn't fiction. It's one of the most powerful forms of psychological manipulation ever known. And no one is completely safe from it. Take the Jonestown Massacre in 1978. Over 900 people, many of them children, died by drinking poisoned punch under the command of cult leader Jim Jones. These weren't irrational people. They were manipulated step by step until they believed every choice they made was their own. That's the horror of brainwashing. It doesn't force you to change. It makes you want to. The process follows a pattern. Isolate, destabilize, indoctrinate, and reinforce. It starts with isolation. Control what someone sees, hears, and believes. Jones moved his followers to a jungle compound, cutting them off from the outside world. In real life, this happens in echo chambers, toxic relationships, or extremist groups. Next comes destabilization, breaking a person down mentally. Cults use long lectures, erratic punishments, and confusion. Governments create crisis after crisis, so people feel overwhelmed and desperate for guidance. The more exhausted someone becomes, the easier they are to control. Then comes indoctrination. You're rewarded for conforming, punished for questioning. So over time, your brain gets rewired. The new belief starts to feel natural even when it's not. Finally, reinforcement. Once the shift is complete, they keep the new identity alive through groupthink. Rituals and loyalty tests. People stop asking questions because their beliefs become part of their identity. It doesn't feel like brainwashing. It feels like clarity. So how do you protect yourself? First, be aware. The moment you're told not to question something, that's a red flag. Second, seek out other viewpoints. If you're only hearing one side, you're being controlled. And third, watch for emotional manipulation, fear, guilt, outrage. These are tools to shut down logic, because once your mind has been rewritten, you won't even realize it's happened. Love bombing. At first it feels magical. Someone showers you with attention, affection, and admiration. They text constantly, praise endlessly, and say you're the one. It's intense. It feels like a fairy tale, but it's not. This is love bombing, a tactic meant to make you emotionally hooked before pulling away. It's not about love. It's about control. Your brain gets addicted to the affection. Dopamine floods your system. You crave more. It feels like love, but it's a trap. In relationships, this might look like big gifts, rushing intimacy, or intense declarations way too early. In friendships or work, it shows up as over-the-top praise and attention. But the real trick is what comes after. Suddenly the warmth disappears, the compliments fade. Now it's criticism, coldness, or distance. You're left wondering what you did wrong. So you try harder. You lower your boundaries. You blame yourself. That first rush was never real. It was bait. This cycle, affection followed by withdrawal, is a psychological hook, called intermittent reinforcement. Just like gambling, you never know when you'll get that emotional payoff again. So you keep trying. It's used by narcissists, cult leaders, and toxic employers. The highs and lows keep you stuck. You chase the love that was never real. By the time you notice the pattern, you're already hooked, exhausted, isolated, and questioning your own worth. Guilt tripping. There's a way to control someone without shouting, threats, or even asking. Just make them feel guilty. Guilt tripping is one of the most subtle and powerful forms of manipulation. It makes people do things not because they want to, but because they'd feel like a bad person if they didn't. Think about it. How many times have you said yes when you were drained, apologized when it wasn't your fault, or stayed in a toxic situation just to avoid the guilt? That's guilt tripping in action. It starts subtly, a parent sighs, "After everything I've done for you." A friend says, "I guess I just don't matter." A partner says, "I've sacrificed so much and you're just walking away." They don't directly tell you what to do. They don't have to. Guilt does the rest. Sometimes guilt isn't enough. That's where shame comes in. Guilt says you did something wrong. Shame says you are something wrong. It's no longer about forgetting a birthday. It's you're a bad friend. Not a mistake at work, it's you're worthless. Shame kills self-worth. It keeps people in line. Cult leaders, toxic bosses, abusive partners, they all use it to keep control. But the worst part, we learn to guilt trip ourselves. The voice in your head says, "I shouldn't say no, I don't deserve to be happy." And once you start shaming yourself, no one else needs to do it anymore. So how do you break the cycle? Start by asking yourself, are you doing this out of choice or fear? Are you constantly trying to earn love or approval that never seems to come? Once you name the guilt, it loses its grip, because your worth is not up for negotiation. And the moment you stop playing their game, the spell breaks. Cultivating dependence. The strongest chains aren't made of metal. They're made of belief. That's how manipulators keep people under control, not by force, but by convincing them they can't live without them. It's not physical imprisonment. It's psychological. It begins with cutting off your options. A partner says your friends don't care. A group says your family is toxic. A leader warns the world is dangerous. At first, it sounds like concern. Then it becomes a rule. Eventually, a belief. One day you look around and realize you're completely alone, with only them left. Now they're the only source of comfort, approval, even basic needs. They create problems only they can fix. They withhold kindness unless you obey. They control money, decisions, even your movements. And here's what's cruel. You think it's your choice. You're not locked in a cage, but you stay, because they've rewritten your world so completely that leaving feels impossible. Cults do it by cutting members off from their families. Abusive partners destroy your self-esteem until you think you're worthless without them. Authoritarian systems erase outside truth until people believe they need the system to survive. And once you believe that, no one needs to trap you. You'll trap yourself. Learned helplessness. In 1973, Patty Hearst, a wealthy young woman, was kidnapped by a militant group. At first, she resisted, but months later, she was seen robbing a bank with her captors. What happened? She didn't just give in. She broke down. It's called learned helplessness. When someone is trapped in a situation where nothing they do changes the outcome, they eventually stop trying. Even when the door is open, they won't run, because their mind has accepted that escape is impossible. Psychologists proved this with dogs. The animals were repeatedly shocked with no way to escape. Eventually, when the gate was opened, they still didn't leave. That's what happens to people too. It starts with chaos. One day the abuser is kind, the next cruel. You live in fear. Your brain stays in survival mode. Then comes doubt. They tell you you're weak, useless, incapable. Slowly, you believe it. Then they isolate you. No friends, no family, just them. Finally, they control your basic needs. food, shelter, emotional safety. By this point, you don't just stay, you defend them. You've been broken down so completely, you believe you need them to survive. This is why people stay in abusive relationships, why hostages bond with captors, why cult members fight for their abuser. It's not weakness, it's psychological survival, because the scariest thing a manipulator steals isn't your freedom. It's your belief that freedom was ever possible. Stockholm Syndrome. There's a moment in every hostage situation where the victim should fear their captor, hate them, fight them, do whatever it takes to escape. But sometimes, something strange happens instead. The victim starts defending them, trusting them, even loving them. It sounds impossible, but it's not the name. Stockholm Syndrome comes from a 1973 bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden. 4 hostages were locked inside a vault for 6 days, terrified and powerless. When the police finally rescued them, something bizarre happened. Instead of thanking their saviors, the hostages defended their captors. One even raised money for their legal defense. The world was baffled. How could victims side with the very people who threatened their lives? But this wasn't an isolated case. It happens in kidnappings, cults, abusive relationships, even prisoner of war camps. And the reason why is terrifying. Stockholm Syndrome isn't about weakness. It's about survival. When a person is trapped and powerless, their brain stops looking for ways to fight and starts looking for ways to cope. The captor controls everything, food, movement, even whether they live or die. And in that situation, the mind does something disturbing. It rewires fear into attachment. It starts with small acts of mercy. A kidnapper allows their hostage to eat an abuser, apologizes after an outburst. A cult leader offers protection from an outside threat. These tiny gestures create a twisted reality. The victims start seeing their captor as their savior, not their oppressor. Because when someone is both the source of your fear and your comfort, your mind clings to the comfort. Then comes isolation. The victim is cut off from the outside world, forced to rely only on their captor words. Over time, their own sense of self erodes. They stop questioning, they start justifying. This is why abuse victims often defend their abusers. Why hostages sometimes refuse to escape even when given the chance. It's not about logic, it's about survival. And finally, dependency locks the victim into place when their only way to stay safe is to keep their cap happy. They stop resisting. They start working for them instead of against them. They might even feel gratitude, loyalty, love. This is why Stockholm Syndrome is so terrifying. It proves just how fragile human perception can be. The mind will betray itself to survive, twisting reality until captors become protectors and victims defend their own suffering. And the worst part, most people don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Memory manipulation. What if I told you that some of your memories, the moments you swear happened exactly as you recall, might be completely false? That someone could plant a memory in your mind and you would believe it just as firmly as your real experiences. It sounds like science fiction, but in reality, memory is one of the most fragile, easily manipulated aspects of the human mind, and that makes it a perfect tool for control. Take the infamous Lost in the Mall experiment by psychologist Elizabeth Loftus. Participants were told stories about their childhood, some real, some completely fabricated. One of them was simple. As a child, they had once been lost in a shopping mall. At first, the subjects had no memory of this, but after repeated questioning and subtle suggestions, many of them began remembering details: who found them, what the mall looked like, how they felt. They swore it had happened, even though it never did. Their minds had filled in the blanks, constructing a completely false memory. This wasn't just people misremembering. This was memory being rewritten. Our brains don't store memories like a camera, capturing moments in perfect clarity. Instead, every time we recall an event, we reconstruct it, pulling together fragments, filling in gaps, and without realizing it, changing the details. And here's the terrifying part: the more you recall a memory, the less accurate it becomes. This means that with the right influence, someone can alter your past. They can change how you remember events, reshape your emotions, and even convince you of things that never happened. One of the easiest ways to manipulate memory is through suggestion. A simple phrase like, "Are you sure that's what happened?" or "I remember it differently," introduces doubt to your brain. Wanting to maintain consistency, starts adjusting its recall to match the new version of events. Over time, you adopt the false memory as your own. Then comes reinforcement. If multiple people confirm the false memory, whether they're lying or just misremembering, it becomes reality. Social agreement is one of the most powerful tools for shaping memory, because the brain values collective certainty over individual doubt. If everyone else remembers it that way, maybe you're the one who's wrong, and this isn't just some harmless quirk of the mind. History has seen terrifying uses of memory. Manipulation, false confessions in criminal cases have been extracted by police interrogators, reconstructing events until the accused believes in their own guilt. In abusive relationships, manipulative partners rewrite history, convincing victims they were at fault for things they never did. Governments and propaganda machines have altered historical narratives, reshaping public perception to serve their agendas. Memory is the foundation of identity. It shapes who we are, what we believe, and how we see the world. But what happens when someone else takes control of it? If your past can be rewritten, then so can your future, and by the time you realize your mind has been altered, if you ever do, it's already too late. Fear-mongering. Fear is one of the oldest tools of control. It bypasses logic, shuts down critical thinking, and replaces doubt with obedience. When people are afraid, they don't question. They just want to feel safe, and that's exactly what makes fear-mongering so dangerous throughout history. Fear has been used to control entire societies. One of the most chilling examples, the Salem witch trials in the late 1600s. Fear of witches swept through a town. Neighbors accused each other. Panic took over, and people were executed for crimes they didn't commit, not because of proof, but because fear made proof irrelevant. And this tactic didn't stop in history books. It happens everywhere. Today, a manipulative boss keeps employees too scared to speak up. An abusive partner convinces someone the outside world is dangerous, so they never leave. Politicians and media keep repeating that everything is under threat: your safety, your job, your family, and then they offer one solution themselves, and the more scared you are, the more power they gain. This works because fear hijacks the brain when your amygdala senses danger. It triggers survival mode, logical thought disappears, and you cling to whatever feels like protection. In that state, whoever presents themselves as your savior becomes your anchor. This is why fear-based marketing is so powerful. Ads don't just sell products, they sell safety. Without this alarm, you're not secure. Without this cream, you'll age. Without this supplement, you'll fall behind. They create a fear, then immediately present the solution, and it doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like common sense, but it's not. And here's the scary part: fear-driven control doesn't come with warnings. It comes disguised as care, as responsibility, as urgency. And if someone is constantly feeding you fear and then positioning themselves as the only one who can save you, step back and ask who benefits, because once fear becomes your guide, someone else is choosing the path. Emotional blackmail. This is one of the most powerful psychological tricks out there, not because it forces you, but because it makes you feel like you don't have a choice. It's called emotional blackmail, and it works by turning your own feelings into weapons against you. Imagine a parent saying, "If you leave me, I don't know how I'll survive," or a partner saying, "If you loved me, you wouldn't doubt me," or a friend reminding you, "After everything I've done for you, you owe me." These aren't just casual remarks, they're traps. They create guilt, fear, obligation, and before you know it, you're doing things you never wanted to do because saying no feels cruel or selfish or dangerous. Emotional blackmail doesn't yell, it doesn't force, it manipulates. It makes you feel like you're responsible for someone else's happiness or survival. And if you don't give in, you're the bad person. It's not just individuals who use this tactic, entire groups use it. One of the clearest examples: the mafia mob bosses don't just rely on violence. They use favors, family ties, loyalty. They make you feel like you owe them, and that saying no is betrayal. This kind of control works because it makes disobedience feel immoral. You don't question the demand, you question yourself. It happens in relationships, where someone threatens to leave, in families, where one person controls everyone, else with guilt and silence, in workplaces, where people are made to feel bad for setting boundaries, and it always follows the same pattern. A demand is made, an emotion is triggered, then relief is offered, but only if you give in. So how do you break the cycle? It starts with noticing it. If someone's reactions make you feel trapped, if setting a boundary brings guilt or punishment, step back and recognize the pattern. The key isn't to argue or explain, it's to stop playing the game. And the truth is, emotional blackmailers don't want love or fairness. They want control, and once they realize they can't control you anymore, they either escalate or move on. Playing on insecurities. Everyone has insecurities. Those quiet doubts in the back of your mind. Am I good enough? What if I fail? Do they really care? And when someone finds those weak spots and uses them to control you, that's one of the most manipulative psychological tricks there is, weaponizing insecurity to get what they want. It happens in relationships, in families, in jobs, even in advertising. One of the most famous examples, Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme. He didn't just steal billions. He exploited fear of missing out, fear of not being special. He made wealthy investors feel chosen, like they were part of something exclusive. And once they believed that, he used their doubt, their pride, their desire for status to keep them hooked. This trick works by identifying what you fear the most and then twisting it. A partner makes you feel unattractive, so you chase their approval. A boss hints you're replaceable, so you overwork. A friend brings up your past failures, so you stay quiet. The goal is to create dependence. You start to believe only they can make you feel secure. And here's the catch: they control the supply of reassurance they give it, take it, manipulate it, and you try harder and harder to earn it back. Even if it's never enough, social media thrives on this. Every scroll reminds you you're not fit enough, rich enough, successful enough. Then ads sell you solutions to those problems you didn't think you had until they showed them to you. But it's not just brands. Toxic parents do it. Jealous friends do it. Abusive partners do it. They slowly chip away at your confidence until you forget what it felt like to believe in yourself. So how do you fight it? First, recognize if someone's words make you feel small, uncertain, or like you have something to prove. Ask if they're building you up or breaking you down. Then rebuild your confidence on your own terms. The less someone controls your self-worth, the less they can use it against you. And always remember this: anyone who uses your insecurities against you doesn't care about you. They care about control. Triangulation. This trick is so quiet and subtle that it can tear apart confidence and relationships without anyone noticing. It's called triangulation, and it works by introducing a third person into a dynamic to create tension, jealousy, or competition. It happens in relationships, workplaces, even politics. And it starts with simple comments. A partner casually brings up an attractive co-worker. They mention how great their ex was, or say someone else understands them better. It seems harmless at first, but slowly it shifts. You're thinking, you start to compete for their attention. You feel insecure, you try harder to prove your worth, and that's exactly what they want. Instead of asking if the relationship is healthy, you start asking if you're good enough. Then comes jealousy. Induction. The manipulator actively tries to make you doubt yourself. They flirt in front of you, praise someone else, or tell stories meant to make you question your place. And as the anxiety builds, so does your need for reassurance. Suddenly you're emotionally off balance, easier to control. And this doesn't just happen in love, it's everywhere. A toxic boss praises one employee while ignoring others to keep them competing. A parent compares siblings to keep control. A leader divides people into opposing sides to stay in power. It works because humans crave social validation. When we feel replaced or left out, our brain goes into survival mode. We fight for approval and stop asking bigger questions. The real danger of triangulation is it changes your mindset. It shifts the focus from "am I being treated well" to "what do I have to do to be good enough?" It creates self-doubt, confusion, emotional dependence. And while you're chasing their approval, they're holding the power. So how do you stop it? Recognize the pattern. If you try constantly being compared or made to feel in competition, ask who benefits then. Refuse to play when you stop reacting. The game ends. And most importantly, know your worth. The more you trust yourself, the harder it is for anyone to control you with insecurity or jealousy, because triangulation only works if you forget your value. Public shaming. For centuries, public shaming has been used as a powerful tool to control people. It can take away someone's dignity, separate them from their community, and turn them into a warning for others. Whether it's a crowd laughing at someone locked in a medieval stockade or a group of strangers tearing apart someone's life online, the goal is the same. Public shaming isn't just about punishment. It's about breaking someone so deeply that they accept their own downfall. Think of the Salem witch trials in 1692. Innocent women were dragged into the spotlight, accused of witchcraft, and forced to confess under unbearable pressure. These accusations weren't based on proof, but on fear, panic, and the crushing weight of judgment. Once targeted, there was no way out. When a crowd gathers, logic disappears. But why is public humiliation so effective? Because it targets one of our oldest fears, being rejected. Humans are social by nature. We depend on others to survive. In ancient times, being cast out from a group meant you might not survive. And even now, when someone is publicly shamed, the brain reacts with the same fear, the same panic, the same deep sense of being unsafe and alone. And this isn't just a big public thing. It happens every day. In workplaces where a boss mocks an employee in front of others. In schools when a student is called out for a mistake. In relationships where one partner puts the other down to feel powerful. It's a move to make someone feel small, afraid, and dependent. The trap runs even deeper. After being shamed, people often try to win back approval from those who hurt them. Instead of standing up, they shrink down, hoping for kindness. And that makes them easier to control. Now, with social media, this has reached a terrifying level. One mistake, one bad joke, and within hours, thousands of people can be attacking. The bigger the crowd, the less anyone feels personally responsible. It becomes a storm of rage, and once someone is marked as bad, forgiveness rarely comes. But public shaming isn't only about the person being punished, it's about warning everyone else. The message is clear: step out of line and this will happen to you. It's not about justice, it's about fear. So how do you protect yourself? Start by seeing it for what it is. A tool meant to control you through fear. When you recognize that, shame starts to lose its grip. Refusing to engage, standing your ground, and rejecting the guilt, that's how you break free. Because the trick of public shaming only works if you believe you deserve it. The moment you stop believing that, you're free. Hoovering, one of the sneakiest tricks in manipulation, doesn't come with yelling or threats. It doesn't push you away. It pulls you back in. Just when you're about to escape, it grabs you. This is hoovering, a tactic designed to suck you back into a toxic situation, right? When you're about to walk away. The name comes from the Hoover vacuum cleaner. That's exactly what this tactic does. Just as you're getting free, it pulls you right back. It's used by narcissists, emotional abusers, and manipulators who hate losing control. And it works because it feeds on hope. The hope that maybe, this time, things will be different. Take Charles Manson. When his cult followers tried to leave, he didn't always use threats. He used affection. He told them they were special, that no one else would ever understand them like he did. He didn't just want them to return. He wanted them to hand over their power again, willingly. So how does hoovering actually work? It takes different forms. There's the love bomb. Suddenly the manipulator is kind again. They bring up old memories, play your favorite songs, and act like the person you always wanted them to be, but only until you're back under their control. Then there's the pity move. If love doesn't work, guilt might. They say they're suffering, that they're sick, depressed, or struggling. They won't ask you directly to return, but they'll make you feel like a bad person if you don't. And if that fails, anger. They lash out. They call you cold, post online to make you jealous, or accuse you of ruining everything. But it's not about moving on. It's about keeping you hooked. Any reaction means they still have power over you. Why does it work? Because the brain wants closure. Every nice moment makes you forget the pain. Every hurtful moment makes you crave the good times. It's a cycle, not a single act, and it keeps you stuck. How do you break it? Recognize hoovering for what it is. First, not real love or change, it's control. The moment you see it, it starts to lose power. Cut contact completely. Don't respond, not even to explain. Hoovering only works when you reply. Without that, they have nothing. Walking away is hard, but staying in that cycle, that's the real danger. The only way to win is to stop playing. Cognitive dissonance. People will defend something even when it's clearly wrong, even when it hurts them, even when the truth is staring them in the face. But this isn't just being stubborn. It's a mental trap, a battle inside the mind where someone is forced to explain their own pain. This is cognitive dissonance amplification, one of the most dangerous tricks out there. Cognitive dissonance happens when someone holds two beliefs that don't fit together. It creates intense stress in the brain. Imagine being loyal to a person, cause, or group, then finding out it's corrupt or harmful. The logical move is to walk away, but most people don't. They dig in. They twist facts to protect what they want to believe. Because facing the truth would mean admitting they wasted time, love even their identity. Take the Heaven's Gate cult. They believed a spaceship would come for them. It didn't. But instead of facing the failure, they believed it was a test. They didn't leave. They doubled down. Their belief ended in a mass suicide. Why? Because admitting the truth would mean admitting everything they lived for was a lie. But this isn't just about cults. It happens everywhere. A boss asks for one small lie. An employee says yes. It feels wrong but not enough to quit. The lies grow. Soon they're stuck. The same thing happens in abusive relationships. It starts small: confusion, guilt. Over time, the victim explains away the abuse. They think it's their fault, and the more they excuse it, the deeper in they get. Entire societies fall for this too. People support movements that turn out to be fake or cruel. But instead of leaving, they defend it harder. Because admitting they were fooled feels worse than continuing the lie. So how do you escape? First, notice when your mind is fighting reality. Ask yourself, do I believe this because it's true, or because I don't want to feel wrong? Second, take a step back. Emotions cloud everything. Look at the facts as if they belong to someone else. Cognitive dissonance is part of being human, but when someone uses it against you, it becomes a prison. And the more you argue that you're right, the deeper in you fall. The only way out is to stop fighting and start asking questions. Exploiting mirror neurons. You yawn when someone else yawns. You smile when others laugh. That's not a choice, it's your brain copying what it sees. This automatic copying comes from mirror neurons. These brain cells fire not just when you act, but when you see someone else do something. They help us bond, connect, and understand each other. But they can also be turned against you in ways that are hard to notice. Take Adolf Hitler. His speeches didn't just use words, they used emotion. He echoed the feelings of the crowd, their fear, their anger, their hopes. The more the crowd reacted, the more intense he became. He didn't use logic to win them over. He used emotion. And when emotion takes over, critical thinking disappears. But this isn't just about big crowds. Manipulators use it every day. Salespeople, cult leaders, con artists, they all do it. They mirror your tone, your body language, your energy, and your brain thinks this person is like me. I can trust them. That's how a con artist can make you feel close to them in minutes. They're not being genuine. They're reflecting you back to yourself. This goes even deeper. When someone subtly copies your movements, you're more likely to like and trust them. It creates fake connection. Toxic relationships often begin this way. The abuser mirrors your personality and interests at first, creating a perfect match. But once you're attached, they shift. Now they control instead of reflect, knowing you're too emotionally tied to leave. And it's not just people. Social media does this too. Platforms show you content that matches your beliefs and feelings. That's not random. The algorithm is mirroring you, feeding your views back to you. It makes you feel right, supported and seen. But it also closes your world, creating echo chambers and pushing out anything different. How do you protect yourself? First, pay attention when someone mirrors you too closely. It might be harmless or it might not. Second, break the rhythm. Change your body language. Bring up something unexpected. A real person will keep up. A manipulator will lose their footing. Mirror neurons are part of what make us human. But when someone uses them to control you, they become a trap. The scariest part? You often don't even realize it's happening. Exploiting empathy. Empathy is seen as a strength, the heart of kindness, trust, and connection. But in the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon. A skilled manipulator won't force you to give in. They'll make you feel like it was your choice all along. Look at Munchausen syndrome by proxy. A caregiver pretends their child is sick, or makes them sick on purpose. The child feels pain, fear, and helplessness, but they never question the one hurting them, because they've been convinced it's care. Meanwhile, the abuser gets sympathy and control, all while playing the role of a loving protector. That's how this manipulation works. It creates a problem, then makes you feel like you're the only one who can fix it. It starts small. Guilt trips like, "You're the only one who understands me," or "If you leave, I don't know what I'll do." Slowly, you're made to feel needed, special, but also trapped. And when you start to pull away, they increase the pressure. More demands, more emotional weight, until you're so tired that giving in feels easier than standing up. You'll see this in cults. Followers are told that leaving means letting down something bigger than themselves. In toxic relationships, one partner uses guilt to keep the other from leaving. Scammers pretend to be victims. sending emotional messages so you feel like you have to help. And the cruel twist, the kinder and more empathetic you are, the easier it is to trap you. Because once your compassion becomes a duty, you stop seeing the harm. You start justifying the pain. Obligation, a small favor might seem harmless, even thoughtful. Someone buys you lunch, and the next time you feel like you should return the gesture. A friend helps you move, and when they ask for a favor later, you hesitate, even if it's not convenient. It's not forced or demanded, but the pressure still lingers. This instinct to give back is natural. It holds friendships together, builds trust, and helps keep things balanced. But when it's used to control, it becomes something else entirely. In the 1970s, Hare Krishna members gave out flowers at airports, no strings attached. But right after, they asked for donations. Most people gave money not because they had to, but because they felt guilty not doing so. A kind gesture became a subtle trap that brought in millions. This is the power of reciprocity. It doesn't force, it just makes saying no feel wrong. It starts with little things, a compliment, a favor, a bit of help. But that feeling of debt grows. When someone calls it in, saying no feels like breaking an invisible rule. In close relationships, this can become silent manipulation. A partner gives gifts, then later reminds you of all they've done when they want something back. A generous friend suddenly makes you feel bad for not being as present. The balance changes. What once felt like kindness now feels like a burden. This tactic goes beyond personal life. Businesses give free samples knowing people are more likely to buy after receiving something free. Charities send small gifts before asking for money, making it harder to say no. Scammers offer fake help just to set up their ask later. The weight of obligation is hard to shake. And it keeps people in bad situations, makes them agree to things they don't want, and stops them from walking away. Seeing this clearly is the first step to resisting it. Not every kind act must be repaid. Not every favor comes with strings. If saying no makes you feel guilty, ask yourself, was this truly a gift or just a transaction in disguise? Divide and conquer. Two people who were once close suddenly find themselves doubting each other. Trust starts to fade, not because of anything they did, but because someone wanted it that way. A quiet rumor, a slight twist of the truth, small moves meant to drive them apart. Once the crack is deep enough, the person who caused it is in control. This is divide and conquer. It's a manipulation trick that's worked for centuries. It breaks unity and creates conflict, keeping people too busy with each other to see who's behind it all. History gives plenty of examples. The British Empire used it to manage colonies, turning local groups against each other so they couldn't unite. Authoritarian leaders do the same today. They stir up division, political, social, or emotional, so no one can stand up to them. But it doesn't only happen on big stages. It shows up in daily life. A manipulative boss pits co-workers against one another to stop teamwork. A toxic partner turns you against your friends or family to become your only influence. Narcissists use it too, feeding false info, so no one connects deeply enough to resist them. The real trick is isolation. When people stop trusting each other, they turn to the manipulator for validation and support. That's when the grip is complete, and it doesn't require bold lies, just a slightly altered truth, a missing detail, or the perfect moment to twist a fact. Allies become enemies, and the person pulling the strings stays protected. Authority bias. In 1961, a shocking experiment revealed something disturbing about people. Psychologist Stanley Milgram wanted to see how far people would go when ordered by someone in charge. Volunteers thought they were helping with a memory test. Their job was to deliver electric shocks to another person for every wrong answer. With each mistake, the shocks increased, from light discomfort to unbearable pain. The person being shocked screamed, begged, then went silent. But it was all fake. The person wasn't really being shocked. Still, most participants kept pressing the button. They were nervous, even upset. But when the man in the lab coat told them to keep going, they did. 2/3 went all the way, delivering what they thought were deadly shocks, all because someone they saw as an authority told them to. This is authority bias, our instinct to trust and obey those we believe have power, knowledge, or status. It's the same force that makes us follow doctors' orders without question, believe the news automatically, or follow confusing workplace rules. But this instinct can be dangerous. History is full of proof. Governments have used blind obedience to justify cruelty. Corporations hide wrongdoing behind strict hierarchies. Cult leaders demand loyalty and make followers give up everything. The brain takes shortcuts. It assumes people in charge must be right. Uniforms, badges, and titles create an illusion that's hard to challenge. The more confident the person, the harder it is to question them. That's why scammers dress as police, why harmful treatments once went unchallenged, and why soldiers sometimes follow terrible orders, because disobeying seems riskier. Fear makes this even worse. If authority not only gives orders but also threatens, even subtly, resistance feels impossible. People obey even when they know it's wrong. And the scariest part, you don't need real power to exploit this, just the appearance of it. A fake badge, a confident tone, or a lab coat can be enough to take control. Scapegoating. History keeps repeating, not because people forget, but because certain tricks keep working. One of the oldest and most dangerous is scapegoating, blaming one person or group for a problem they didn't cause. It's a trick that has led to witch hunts, collapsed governments, and ruined lives. Take the Salem witch trials. In the late 1600s, fear ran high in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Illness, bad crops, tension. People wanted answers. Instead of facing the hard truth, they turned to a chilling belief: witchcraft. Dozens, mostly women, were accused without proof. Friends turned on each other. People were executed. And yet the real problems, fear and instability, never got addressed. That's because scapegoating doesn't solve anything. It simply shifts focus. Why does it work? Because people want simple answers. When something goes wrong, in families, jobs, or even whole countries, it's easier to blame one person than face a complex reality. Blame offers relief. It feels like understanding, even when it's false. And this trick isn't just in history. It happens daily. A cheating spouse calls their partner paranoid. A dishonest politician blames reporters. A bad CEO says lazy workers are at fault. It's all misdirection. The real issue stays hidden while people chase a false villain. And the more this happens, the harder it is to see what's true. The scapegoat becomes the focus. Real problems go ignored. People get so caught up in blame they refuse to believe any evidence that challenges it. This is how entire groups have been targeted, not because of what they did, but because someone needed someone to blame. To avoid this trap, look deeper. If a problem has only one person being blamed, ask who gains from this. What's being missed while everyone points fingers? And most of all, are you being pushed to believe a simple lie instead of facing a hard truth? Because the most powerful kind of control doesn't use force, it uses fear. And fear with a target becomes a weapon. Social proof exploitation. In 1968, a woman named Kitty Genovese was attacked outside her apartment in New York. She screamed for help for almost 30 minutes. Dozens of people saw or heard, but no one stepped in. No one called the police. Everyone thought someone else would help. This is the bystander effect, a chilling example of social proof in action. It's a bias that drives much of human behavior. We look to others to decide what's right. If lots of people are doing something, we assume it's correct. It's why busy restaurants attract more people, why trends explode overnight, why lies can spread faster than truth. But when this instinct is used to manipulate, it becomes dangerous. Advertisers know this. They tell you millions love their product, that it's a bestseller, that everyone's switching. You may not research it, but the appearance of mass approval makes it seem trustworthy. Just a few fake reviews can tip your decision. Scammers do the same. Ever seen Too Good to Be True reviews or sudden social media hype around a sketchy product? That's manufactured influence. It's how cults, scams, and propaganda work. Make it seem like everyone believes and others will follow. But the real danger is deeper. Social proof shapes our actions. In groups, people are less likely to help in emergencies. Everyone assumes someone else will act. This fuels mob behavior too. Someone who'd never do harm alone might follow a crowd because it feels right. Morality is outsourced. If no one is stopping it, it must be okay. And it doesn't take much to trigger this. A few fake opinions, some artificial buzz, a well-timed trend. Suddenly the illusion feels real. When enough people believe, even skeptics start to follow. The worst part, Most never realize they were influenced. They think they made the choice on their own. Groupthink induction, one of the most dangerous psychological tactics, doesn't target a single person. It influences entire groups. It makes questioning the consensus feel impossible. It doesn't force agreement. Instead, it creates a space where disagreeing feels like betrayal. That's when people stop thinking for themselves, even when the flaws are obvious. Picture a high-stakes corporate meeting. A company is about to release a product, but everything suggests it'll fail. Market research says customers won't buy it. Engineers raise red flags. A few executives have private doubts. But in that room, silence, agreement, no pushback. Not because people can't see the problem, but because no one wants to be the odd one out. That's groupthink. A mindset where the desire for unity overrides logic, doubt, and even self-preservation. Inside a group, harmony becomes more important than truth. Questioning the majority feels wrong. And when dominant voices lead the tone, others fall in line, and often without realizing. It starts subtly. Maybe a leader shares a strong opinion, and others just go with it. Maybe the group values agreement so highly that disagreement seems hostile. Over time, this pressure to blend in beats the need to be right. People hold in their concerns, justify bad ideas, and assume that if everyone agrees, it must be right. History has seen disasters rooted in groupthink, failed wars, economic crashes, political collapses, situations where, in hindsight, the mistakes were obvious, but no one spoke up when it mattered. And the scariest part, inside that bubble, people don't feel manipulated. They believe they're thinking clearly, but they're just echoing the crowd around them, cultivating a false identity. Some manipulators don't just lie, they become the lie. They build identities tailored to win trust, shaping themselves into whoever they need to be. It's not just deception, it's performance. And when it's convincing, it's almost impossible to catch. Franka Bagnall, the real-life con artist behind Catch Me If You Can, pulled off one of the boldest identity scams ever. Before he was 21, he posed as a pilot, a doctor, and a lawyer, all without real qualifications. With charm, confidence, and just the right details, he became whoever he needed to be, and it worked because he understood something. Most people don't. If something looks real enough, we rarely question it. We judge others quickly. Someone who acts like they belong, who speaks with confidence, who dresses the part, our brains assume they are who they say they are. The best manipulators don't just lie, they become someone people want to believe in. And once that false identity sticks, something strange happens. Others begin to support it. They vouch for the person, defend them, even dismiss the warning signs. If enough people believe a lie, it starts to feel like truth. Cult leaders do this, so do scammers. Sometimes, even entire societies buy into someone who was never who they claim to be. And when the manipulator buys into their own act, the line between lie and reality blurs, for them and for everyone else. Eventually, even they might forget who they really are. The seeds of self-doubt. You don't need chains to trap someone. Sometimes all it takes is a single, quiet whisper in their mind, one that makes them doubt who they are. The most powerful kind of control doesn't come from threats. It starts with a thought. What if I'm not good enough? That's how self-doubt works. A psychological trick that quietly tears down confidence, reshapes beliefs, and traps people in constant second-guessing. And the worst part, once the idea is planted, most people nurture it themselves. Think about the infamous Milgram experiment. It's usually remembered for blind obedience, but there's something deeper. Participants weren't just told to shock others. They were slowly led to doubt their own sense of right and wrong. At first they resisted, but after hearing again and again, it's okay, keep going, they began to question themselves. Bit by bit, their resistance faded. They stopped trusting their own instincts. Self-doubt doesn't arrive all at once. It slips in slowly, often triggered by someone else. A simple comment, "Are you sure? That doesn't sound like you. You always mess up." Repeated enough, those words start to stick. The brain looks for proof that maybe, just maybe, it's true. And once someone believes it, their confidence collapses. Manipulators use this trick all the time. If they can make someone unsure of themselves, that person will turn to them for guidance. They'll crave approval. They'll lose trust in their own choices and start depending on the one who knows better. That's how toxic relationships work. It's how abuse thrives. It's how cults keep control. And here's the scariest part. Even if the manipulator disappears, the self-doubt stays. The voice they planted lingers, whispering, maybe they were right about me. That's why this trick is so dangerous. It doesn't just control people, it convinces them to control themselves. Emotional contagion exploitation. Ever walked into a room and immediately felt something shift? Maybe someone's tension made you uneasy. Maybe a friend's excitement lifted your mood. That's not just intuition. It's emotional contagion. The subconscious transfer of feelings from one person to another. And in the wrong hands, it becomes a tool for manipulation. Humans naturally mirror emotions. It's how we connect and understand each other. If someone around you is anxious, your brain picks up on their tone, posture, and expression. Before you even realize it, you start to feel anxious too. It happens automatically, and that's what makes it so easy to use. Look at mass hysteria, like during the Salem witch trials. One person panics, then another, and suddenly an entire town is consumed by fear. No one stops to question it. They just react. That same effect plays out in riots, market crashes, cults. Anytime people feed off the emotions around them without thinking, manipulators use this to gain control. They don't have to tell you what to do. They just create an emotional environment that pushes you to act. A leader beaming confidence can make you ignore red flags. A narcissist faking sadness can guilt you into staying. A hyped-up salesperson can make you buy something just because their energy is contagious. Even fake emotions can trigger real reactions. A skilled manipulator can manufacture excitement, fear, or anger, and those around them will absorb it without realizing what's happening. And once emotions take over, clear thinking disappears. That's how political rallies spin out of control, how cult leaders keep power, how toxic relationships trap people. Whoever controls the emotional tone controls the people. So next time you feel something rise out of nowhere, ask yourself, is this feeling mine? Or did someone plant it there? The illusion of choice. You think you're making your own decisions? But what if most of them are already set up for you? That's the illusion of choice. A trick that makes you feel in control while you're actually being guided down a path someone else designed. Imagine sitting at a restaurant, choosing between steak, pasta, or salad. Seems simple, but did you ever wonder why those are the only options? Why no burger or sushi? Your choices were already limited, and you didn't even notice. This trick is everywhere. In politics, advertising, relationships, at any time. You're presented with options that seem like freedom but aren't. Take supermarkets. You walk in for bread, walk out with snacks you didn't plan on. Store layouts are designed that way. They guide your path, push your spending, all while making you feel like you're choosing freely. In politics, debates are often narrowed to two sides. Pick one. But what if the real problem is the way the issue was framed from the start? You're being steered without even seeing the reins. Marketers use this too. Ever seen three price options? Cheap, premium, and just right? Most people go for the middle one. That was the plan all along. It gets worse in relationships. When someone says, you can either do this or we're done, it's not a choice. It's control in disguise. It forces you to choose from limited options, making you feel like you had agency when you didn't. The illusion of choice works because we assume having some options equals freedom. But real freedom means asking who gave you those options in the first place. The most effective manipulators don't take away your choices. They make you believe you had them all along. Anchoring bias exploitation. How much would you pay for a coffee? $10, 5, 1, whatever popped into your head. It wasn't random. Your brain anchored to something. Maybe a price you've seen before. Maybe even the number just mentioned. That's anchoring bias, a mental shortcut that shapes how we judge value, fairness, and even reality without us realizing. Here's how it works. You walk into a store, see a $10,000 watch, then next to it a $2,000 watch. Suddenly that second one seems like a bargain, but it's not cheap. Your brain just got anchored to the higher price. This happens in restaurants too. That absurdly expensive dish. It's not there to sell. It's there to make everything else look reasonable. This trick isn't limited to shopping. It's used in negotiations, politics, even relationships. Picture a job offer. The employer starts with a low number. You push back. They raise it slightly. Now you're negotiating from their anchor, not what you actually deserve. It gets darker. Anchoring can twist your entire view of the world. A news report says crime is up 300%. Sounds scary, but what if it went from 1 case to 4? That number anchors your fear, even if the change is tiny. Your sense of urgency shifts, and you don't even realize why. Anchoring shows up in relationships too. Someone says, "You're too sensitive." This is normal. Even if you disagree, your brain adjusts. That extreme becomes the new standard. What once felt wrong starts to feel acceptable. This bias works because our brains crave reference points. We don't assess things in isolation, and we compare. And once that first number or idea is planted, it's hard to let go. A good manipulator doesn't need to control every step, just the first one. From there, you'll likely do the rest on your own. Framing affects manipulation. Imagine walking into a store and seeing a yogurt labeled 90% fat-free. Sounds healthy, right? But next to it is another one that says contains 10% fat. Suddenly that second one feels less appealing, even though both say the same thing. This is called the framing effect. It doesn't change the facts, only how they're shown. And that tiny shift can completely change the way you think. It may seem like just clever marketing, but framing goes much deeper. It shapes how people think about politics, how the media tells stories, even how you feel in relationships. Let's take a policy example. If you're told it will save 200 lives, you might support it. But if you hear that 400 people will die, support drops. The math is identical, but the emotional pull is different. It's not just about numbers either. It shows up in values too. One side says pro-life, the other says pro-choice. Both are worded to sound positive. Nobody wants to be seen as anti-life or anti-choice. Framing taps into your emotions before facts even come into play. That's where the real danger is. It can control how you feel about protests, for example. One headline might say people are demanding justice. Another might call the same group a violent mob. The result? Sympathy or fear, depending on the frame. And no one has to lie. They just choose words that push you in a certain direction. Once they shape how you see the situation, they don't need to force your reaction. You give it freely. This happens in personal situations too. When someone says, "I'm sorry you feel that way," instead of owning their mistake, they shift blame to you. Or when a controlling partner says, "I'm just trying to help," they appear caring instead of manipulative. Set the frame right, and the same action looks heroic or toxic. And once you accept the frame, everything fits into it. Meet someone labeled as trouble, you'll see them that way no matter what. Buy something labeled luxury, you'll justify the price, even if it's no better than a cheaper brand. Framing doesn't lie. It just makes sure you see the world in a way that serves someone else's goal. Confirmation, bias, reinforcement. Two people watch the same news story. One already thinks the government is corrupt. The other believes it's doing great, and somehow both feel more sure than ever that they're right. That's confirmation bias. Your brain filters what you see and hear to match what you already believe. It clings to familiar ideas and blocks out the rest. That alone is troubling, but what's worse is that people can use this to trap you. Cults are a prime example. They don't try to change your mind all at once. They feed off doubts you already have. If someone's frustrated with society, the cult echoes that anger. They show stories that fuel it. Over time, the recruit stops questioning and only accepts the things that agree with what the group wants them to believe. Politics uses the same tactic. Social media does too. Click on one post you agree with, and suddenly your feed is filled with more of the same. You're surrounded by ideas you already like. It begins to feel like everyone thinks the way you do. Opposing views get filtered out, and when you don't see them, you start to believe they don't exist. This isn't just about politics or cults either. It shows up in conspiracy theories. A person believes the earth is flat. Any evidence against it? They say it's a cover-up. Argue with them and they dig deeper, because the brain rejects things that challenge what it already feels is true. Scammers use this trick too. They don't need to convince you their product works. They just need to find someone who already thinks it might and show only the good parts. Emotional stories and carefully picked data keep you focused on the positives and blind to the rest. Even toxic relationships follow this pattern. If you fear abandonment, a manipulator doesn't need to make you believe they're perfect. They just twist moments to confirm that fear. See, everyone leaves you. And as that idea repeats, your brain begins to reject anything that says otherwise. Confirmation bias doesn't just hide the truth. It makes you fight against it. Once you're caught in it, facts feel like threats. That's why manipulators don't argue. They simply control what you see, so you only absorb what helps their plan. Eventually, you don't just agree. You believe it's your own idea. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. Ever hear a new phrase and suddenly it's everywhere? Or spot a rare car, and now it's all you see on the road? That's not a trick of fate. It's a trick of the brain. It's called the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, also known as the frequency illusion. Once your mind picks up a new idea, it starts to see it more often. Not because it's actually happening more, but because your brain is now tuned to notice it. The information was always there. You're just paying attention to it now. And this natural brain quirk can be turned into a weapon. Here's how. Let's say someone wants you to believe a certain idea. They don't start with a full-on campaign. They just plant the idea quietly. Maybe a tweet, a headline, a quick mention in a video. It seems harmless at first, but then it keeps popping up. You hear it again on the radio. You see it in a meme. Your friend brings it up. Suddenly, it feels like the world agrees with it. But that's not the world, it's your brain being tricked. Marketers know this and use it all the time. They flood your day with their product's name, so it feels common and trusted. Politicians do it too. A repeated phrase becomes part of everyday talk. It begins to feel true simply because you keep hearing it. Cults and conspiracies do the same thing. They introduce a thought and then quietly reinforce it until it becomes part of your mental landscape. And the scary part is, it feels real. It feels natural. You think you're seeing a pattern in the world, when really it's a pattern created for you. You don't feel manipulated. You feel like you figured it out on your own. That's what makes this so dangerous. So next time something seems to be showing up everywhere, stop. Ask yourself, is this really happening? Or is someone making sure you notice it? Exploiting mirror neurons. You yawn when someone else yawns. You smile when others laugh. That's not coincidence. It's your brain mirroring what it sees. Mirror neurons are brain cells that make us copy the actions and emotions of people around us. They're what help us connect, feel empathy, and relate to others. But this beautiful part of being human can also be used to manipulate you. One of the darkest examples is Adolf Hitler. He didn't just speak to crowds, he reflected their fears and hopes. He gave them back their own emotions, creating a powerful loop that bypassed logic and fueled blind loyalty. You don't need a stadium to use this trick. Salespeople, con artists, and cult leaders do it every day. They subtly copy how you speak, how you sit, how you react. Your brain sees the similarity and thinks, this person is like me. That leads to instant trust. It's why you might open up to a stranger so fast. They're not just listening, they're reflecting you back to yourself. This goes even deeper. Mirroring can build trust, affection, even love. If someone matches your energy and behavior, you're more likely to like and believe them. This is how some abusive relationships begin. A toxic partner starts by becoming your mirror, your interests, your thoughts, your feelings. It feels like perfect connection. But once trust is locked in, they stop reflecting and start controlling. And it's not just people doing this. Social media works the same way. Algorithms show you content that matches what you already believe. It mirrors your views, making you feel validated. Over time, that creates narrow thinking and deep divisions. So how do you fight back? Start by noticing the mirroring. If someone copies you too closely, take a step back. Shift the topic, move differently. A real person will adjust, a manipulator will struggle. Mirror neurons are part of what make us human. But in the wrong hands, they can turn your own instincts against you. And the worst part, you won't even know it's happening. Pacing and leading. Ever meet someone who just seems to get you? They say the right things, make you feel heard, and before you know it, you're nodding along. You trust them, but what if that wasn't chance? What if they were guiding you from the start? That's the technique known as pacing and leading. It's a method used to gain influence without you noticing. First, the person matches your feelings, thoughts, or actions. That's pacing. Then, once you feel connected, they steer you. That's leading. It's used by cult leaders, con artists, and politicians alike. They start by saying what you already feel. You're tired. You're angry. You've been ignored. And then they shift to control. Follow me. Trust me. I have the answer. It happens in everyday life too. A salesperson listens to your concerns, repeats them back, and then uses that trust to lead you to a decision. Even in personal relationships, someone might agree with you just to gain your trust. Once you feel seen, they guide your choices without ever forcing you. That's what makes it so dangerous. It feels natural. You don't feel pushed. You feel understood. But by the time you realize they've been steering you, you're already far down a path you didn't choose on your own. Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Have you ever walked away from a conversation, feeling strangely persuaded, like someone led your thoughts without ever pushing? That might not be your imagination. That's a technique called Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP. It uses subtle language tricks to influence your thoughts, emotions, and actions. On the surface, NLP is sold as a communication tool, but in the wrong hands, it becomes a method for control. One common tactic is the embedded command. Instead of saying, "Trust me," someone might say, "You may not realize it yet, but you're starting to trust what I'm saying." The suggestion slips past your defenses and sinks in. Another trick is mirroring. When someone copies your body language or speaking style, you're more likely to trust them. Your brain reads the familiarity as safety. Cult leaders use it to create deep bonds. Salespeople use it to disarm skepticism. The most powerful NLP move is anchoring. That means linking a certain word or gesture to an emotional state. If someone makes you feel good every time they say a phrase, your brain starts to trust that phrase automatically. Even if they lie later, you still feel safe when you hear it. The real danger of NLP isn't that it forces you. It's that it guides you without you ever knowing. You feel like you're making your own decisions, but the truth is, you're being led. Subliminal messaging. You probably think your thoughts, choices, and beliefs are your own. But what if I told you that even now as you read this, hidden messages might be slipping into your mind, ones you'll never notice, yet they'll still shape what you do? Subliminal messaging isn't some wild science fiction idea. It's real, it's powerful, and it's been used for years to steer people without them knowing. The most talked about example? The 1957 Coca-Cola experiment. A guy named James Vickery claimed he flashed words like drink, Coca-Cola, and eat popcorn on a movie screen. For just a blink, too fast for you to notice, but enough for your subconscious to take in. He said snack sales went through the roof. People freaked out, scared that they were being tricked into buying stuff. Vickery later admitted he made up the results. But the method, that was real. Since then, ads, politics, even spy agencies have tested subliminal tricks because they get results. At the heart of it, subliminal messaging skips over your thinking brain and talks straight to the part of your mind that just soaks up everything. Show an image or phrase enough times, even subtly, and it sticks. Later, you make a choice and feel drawn to something for no clear reason, because it was planted in your head earlier. One way they do this is through visuals in ads. Fast food chains hide shapes, symbols, even secret words to make their meals look more tempting. Politicians use colors and music to stir feelings that push you their way. Even social media nudges your views by carefully choosing what you see. But it's not just what you see, it's what you hear too. Faint sounds hidden in songs or ads can spark emotions. Some tones can make you feel anxious, others excited. Ever stayed in a store longer than planned? That could be the music working on you, making you shop more. Then there's priming. You see a word, a color, or a picture, and don't think anything of it. But later, your brain connects the dots and pushes you to act a certain way. Casinos are built on this. Flashing lights, loud machines. No windows or clocks. It's all designed to make you lose track of time and keep spending. Maybe the scariest thing about subliminal messages is how easily they blend into your life. News stations use specific words to shape how you view events. Social media shows you things that support what you already think. Even in relationships, people can use subtle reinforcement to shift your views without you noticing. So how much of what you think is really yours? How many choices were quietly planted in your head without you knowing? The scariest part is that you might never be able to tell when it's happening. Priming effects. You walk into a store and soft classical music is playing. Suddenly you feel a little more elegant, maybe even willing to spend a bit more. Later, at a restaurant, the fancy cursive on the menu makes the expensive dishes seem more tempting. You believe you're making these choices freely, but you've just been primed. Priming is one of the sneakiest and most powerful tricks out there. It slips ideas into your head without your awareness and makes you more likely to think or act a certain way. It doesn't force you. It just gives your mind a quiet push before you even know what's happening. One well-known experiment involved words linked to old age like wrinkled, bingo, and Florida. After seeing these words, people unknowingly walked slower down a hallway. They didn't know why, but their minds felt older and their bodies followed. You see this kind of thing all the time. Grocery stores put fresh flowers near the entrance to make you feel like everything is fresh and high quality. Political ads repeat the same line again and again until you start to believe it. Even job interviews can be affected. If someone just read something negative earlier in the day, they might judge you more harshly. Priming works because your brain is always looking for patterns. Say the word yellow and your mind jumps to banana faster than it would to something unrelated. See a logo over and over, and you might trust the brand, even if you've never bought from them. But there's a darker side. Priming can shape how we view the world without us noticing. News headlines pick certain words to control how you feel about a story before you even read it. A crime involving one person might sound scary, but if it's called a gang-related incident, it feels even worse. Companies don't say layoffs, they say right-sizing, making it sound smart instead of sad. In courtrooms, a single word can change everything. Ask how fast a car was going when it smashed into another, and people guess higher speeds than if you say bumped. That one word can even change what people remember. On social media, priming happens all the time. Every like, every suggested post, every trend is shaping your thoughts before you've had a chance to think for yourself. Even something small like the color red on a test can lower scores. Your mind links it to danger or mistakes. Once you've been primed, it's hard to undo. If you think someone's untrustworthy, everything they do will seem suspicious. If you expect a bad experience, your brain will help make it happen. Priming doesn't just change a moment, it changes how you see the world. So think about this. How many thoughts in your head are truly yours, and how many were quietly placed there before you even knew? Suggestive language and hypnosis. Have you ever had a conversation where someone gently guided you to a choice that felt like yours, but maybe it wasn't? Maybe you went into a store and walked out with something you didn't plan to buy, thinking it was your idea. But what if it wasn't? What if someone used just the right words to steer you? That's what suggestive language and hypnosis can do. These methods don't need to be loud or obvious. They don't involve swinging watches or weird chants. They just shape how you see things without you even realizing. Take the Lost in the Mall experiment from the 70s. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus told people a made-up story about getting lost as a kid and being rescued by a stranger. It never happened. But many people remembered it anyway, with full detail. Their brains filled in the blanks, all because of a simple suggestion. That's the scary part. The story doesn't have to be real. It just has to feel real enough for your brain to accept it. Now add hypnosis to that. Hypnosis isn't mind control. It's about lowering your guard. It puts you in a state where your mind is open, relaxed, and easy to influence. In that state, someone can slip in ideas or emotions without you pushing back. One way this works is through hidden commands inside normal speech. A politician might say, "When you step into that voting booth, you'll feel a strong sense of trust in our leadership." That line, "feel a strong sense of trust," is a quiet suggestion. It doesn't argue, it just plants the idea. This trick is everywhere in marketing too. A waiter asking if you'd like the steak or the seafood isn't giving you a real choice. They're assuming you've already decided to order. Or think about the yes ladder technique. A car dealer might get you to agree to small things like, "This is a nice car, right? So you'd love a smooth ride, wouldn't you?" By the time the real decision comes, your brain is already used to saying yes. But this can go much deeper. Suggestive language has been used to shape memories and even change people's identity. Cults, scammers, and interrogators all use it. Police might tell someone you don't remember now, but memories come back in pieces. Over time, the suspect might start to doubt their own memory and even confess to something they didn't do. Once an idea takes hold, it's hard to shake. That's the real danger. A single sentence, the way a question is asked, a subtle tone shift, It can all change how someone sees the world, possibly forever. So how many of your beliefs truly came from you? And how many were quietly placed there without you knowing, creating a sense of urgency? Picture this. You're browsing an online store and find something you really like. Then you see a red countdown timer. Only 2 left, deal ends in 3 minutes. Suddenly your heart races. You don't have time to think. You click buy. Just like that, you've been manipulated. This is urgency at work, a way to control your choices by making you act fast. It cuts off your thinking and makes you react. And what's worse, you probably don't even realize it's happening. A classic example is the 1938 War of the Worlds broadcast. It was a fake alien invasion, but it was done like a real news report. People panicked. Why? Because it felt urgent. They didn't stop to think. That's the power of urgency. It grabs your emotions before logic can step in. How does this work? It feeds on something called loss aversion. That's the idea that people hate losing something more than they enjoy gaining it. So if you think you're about to miss out, your brain goes into panic mode. Marketers love this. They throw phrases like limited time only, or just a few left at you. These aren't just words, they're tools to make you act without thinking. And once you feel rushed, you've already lost control. But it gets even more dangerous. Scammers, cults, and shady businesses use urgency to trap people. Pyramid schemes tell you to invest now or miss out on success. That pressure makes you act fast without asking questions. By the time you realize the truth, it's too late. Even news outlets and politicians use it. Emergency press briefings, breaking news, urgent headlines, they all stir up emotion. When people are scared, they don't double-check facts. That's when lies spread fastest. Think about how chaos starts. Stock markets crash, riots begin, wars are declared. It often starts with fear and urgency. When emotion takes over, reason shuts down. And that's when people are easiest to control. What makes urgency so scary is that it feels normal. You think you're making a smart choice, acting fast. But really, someone else has already made the choice for you. So the next time you feel pressure to act right now, stop. Because if you're feeling rushed, you may already be under someone else's control. Foot in the door technique. Let's say someone asks if you'd put a small sticker on your window to support a cause you care about. It's tiny. Seems easy. You say yes. A few weeks later, they ask you to put a big sign in your front yard. You're much more likely to say yes again, just because you agreed the first time. That's the foot in the door trick, and it's one of the most dangerous mind games out there. Because it doesn't feel like a trick. It feels like your own decision, a shocking real-life case. Patty Hearst in 1974. She was kidnapped by a militant group. At first, she was terrified, but they didn't demand total loyalty right away. They started small. A message here, a task there. Slowly, she joined in and ended up robbing banks with them. How it all comes down to consistency. Once you say yes to something small, your brain wants to stay consistent. You tell yourself, I agreed before, so this must be okay too. Ads do this all the time. That's why free trials exist. You try something out for free. Then when it's time to pay, canceling feels like backing out of a choice you already made. Salespeople use it too. First, they ask you to test drive the car. Then just sit down to talk numbers. Next thing you know, you're signing papers. Not because you wanted to, but because it felt like the next natural step. And it gets darker. Cults and extreme groups use this method to pull people in. They don't demand full belief right away. Just come to one meeting. Just sign this. Just donate a little. Each step feels small, but each one takes you further down a path that's harder to leave. So the next time someone asks for something small, think twice. The first request might not be the real goal. The real trap could be what comes next. Door in the face technique. Imagine a charity worker stops you on the street and asks if you'd be willing to donate $500 to help struggling families. That's a big request. You hesitate, feel a little uncomfortable and say no. Then they follow up with, totally understandable. How about just 20? That second request feels smaller and more reasonable, and before you know it, you're handing over the cash. This is one of the most effective compliance tricks in psychology, called the door in the face technique. It works because of a basic instinct in human behavior known as reciprocal concessions. When someone lowers their demand after being rejected, we feel pressure to compromise. It feels like we owe them something just because they back down. Many studies have shown this effect. In one, students were asked to volunteer 2 hours a week for 2 years at a juvenile detention center. Everyone said no, but then they were asked to chaperone a one-day trip to the zoo. Far more students agreed to that second request compared to when it was asked alone. Why? Because after saying no to the big favor, the smaller one felt like an easy yes. This technique shows up everywhere. Salespeople start with a huge price and then generously lower it, making you feel like you got a bargain. Interrogators do the same, offering a lighter charge, after first threatening with something extreme. Even abusive relationships and cults use this. They ask for impossible sacrifices first, then back down and ask for something that feels smaller. The trick isn't about getting what they asked for. It's about making you think saying yes was your idea. Lowballing. You walk into a car dealership, excited to buy your first car. The salesperson welcomes you with a smile and says, "There's a special deal, this car, fully loaded, for just $20,000. It fits your budget." You shake hands, feel the rush of buying and start picturing yourself driving. But just before signing, the salesperson frowns and says they made a mistake. The real price is $23,000 due to added fees. By this point, you're already emotionally invested. You've mentally bought the car. Instead of walking away, you agree to the new price. That's lowballing. It works by getting you to commit before revealing the true cost. Even if the terms change, you feel stuck. Backing out now feels like losing, even though you've been misled. A well-known study had college students agree to participate in a study. After they committed, they were told it started at 7 a.m. That's early and inconvenient, but most still showed up. Why? Because they had already said yes. This tactic isn't just used to sell cars. It shows up in job offers, where a recruiter promises a dream role and then quietly adds longer hours or lower pay. Manipulators use it too. Cults or extremist groups invite people with harmless requests. Just come to a seminar. Just listen. Just meet a few people. But once you've stepped in, they slowly ask for more. And by the time you realize it's too much, you're already in too deep to turn back. Lowballing isn't just about money. It's about slowly taking away your ability to say no. Bandwagon effect manipulation. It starts with one simple thought. Everyone else is doing it, so it must be right. That's the bandwagon effect. A psychological trick that plays on one of our deepest fears, being left out. It makes us follow trends, spread misinformation, and believe things we never questioned. Look at the Salem witch trials in the 1600s. A few accusations of witchcraft led to mass panic and dozens of deaths. Why? Because people saw others turning on each other and felt pressured to join in. Once the crowd moves in one direction, it's hard to stand still. The bandwagon effect is simple. When enough people believe or do something, others follow. Not because they believe in it, but because they don't want to be left behind. It's why housing bubbles form. In 2008, people kept buying real estate because prices kept rising. Everyone else was doing it, so it felt safe. Then it all crashed. Propaganda works the same way. If a government can get enough people to support something, others will fall in line. Once people think there's a popular opinion, they stop thinking critically. Advertisers use this constantly, making you feel left out if you don't buy their product. Social media boosts posts that already have likes. Politicians fill rallies with paid crowds to look popular. Once something looks widely accepted, it spreads faster. You stop questioning if it's right, and the more people join, the more convincing it becomes. You might not even notice it. You'll just believe you made the choice yourself. Creating a sense of scarcity. Have you ever suddenly wanted something more just because it seemed limited? Whether it's a rare sneaker drop, a luxury car, or someone's attention, scarcity makes things feel more valuable. And that's exactly why it's so widely used to manipulate people. Take Black Friday. People literally trample each other for discounted items. Not because they desperately need a TV or microwave, but because they're told the supply is limited. Stores create that feeling on purpose. It doesn't matter that you could buy the same item later. In that moment, the fear of missing out makes you act. That's because scarcity hijacks a part of your brain, hardwired for survival. Thousands of years ago, if something was scarce, like food or water, you had to act fast or lose out. That instinct still exists. It's why luxury brands limit products. The less available something is, the more we chase it. It's why influencers hide content behind paywalls. It's why someone ignoring you might seem more attractive. But it goes beyond sales and dating. Scarcity is used to control people. Dictators limit access to information, making it feel rare and precious. Cult leaders convince followers they're the only ones with the truth. When something feels scarce, we stop thinking clearly. We forget to ask if we even want it. We just chase it because we might lose it. Exploit the need for closure. Some questions keep playing in your mind. Why did they leave? What really happened? What was the truth? That nagging feeling of not knowing is more than just frustration. It's a powerful part of human psychology called the need for closure. And if someone knows how badly you want answers, they can use that to control you in ways you won't even see coming. Our brains hate loose ends. When something is unresolved, we fill in the blanks, searching for meaning. And that's where the trap begins. In relationships, someone might obsess over an ex, not because they want them back, but because they never got a clear reason for the breakup. That open loop makes them replay every moment, trying to understand. If the person returns with a vague excuse, the brain grabs it just for peace of mind. Manipulators use this. They vanish, then come back with just enough explanation to satisfy the craving for answers. It's not just in personal relationships. Cults use it too. They keep followers hooked by hinting at a secret, a big truth they're almost ready to reveal, if you just obey a little more. But the truth never comes. It's just a way to keep people searching. Politics also uses this trick. Leaders make vague claims like, they're hiding something, or the truth is out there. They don't give proof. They give just enough mystery to make people invent their own answers. And here's what's dangerous. Studies show people believe they're made up. Answers even more than facts. That's why cliffhangers in TV shows work. That's why vague ads and teasers stay in your mind. You're wired to want resolution, even if it's false. And the more you need closure, the easier it is for someone else to give you whatever version they want, true or not. Because once they control the answers, they control how you think. Micromanipulation. Imagine you're having a normal conversation. Everything feels fine, but slowly your thoughts shift. You start doubting yourself, feeling guilty for things you wouldn't normally question. The other person never yelled or made demands, but somehow your mind has changed. That's micromanipulation, subtle, almost invisible techniques used to influence your choices, beliefs and behaviors without you noticing. It's not loud or obvious like manipulation usually is. It's quiet, slow, and calculated like a silent poison. Take the foot in the door tactic. It starts small. A company asks you to sign a harmless petition. Days later, they ask for a donation. You say yes because your brain likes consistency. That first yes was never harmless. It was the setup. In relationships, micromanipulators are just as skilled. They won't demand obedience. They'll sigh, pause, raise an eyebrow. Tiny signals that train you to adjust. In time, you shape your actions to avoid their reactions. Workplaces aren't safe either. A boss might mention how someone stayed late to finish a task. They didn't ask you to do the same, but now you feel you should. That's the trick. They plant the idea and let your mind do the rest. Brands use it too. Think of ads that say only 5 left, or this deal won't last. They're creating fake urgency. You think you're choosing, but you're reacting. Gaslighting is a darker version of this. The manipulator won't say you're crazy. They'll ask, "Are you sure I said that?" It sounds innocent, but it works like erosion, wearing down your confidence bit by bit. Eventually, your thoughts don't even feel like your own. Micromanipulation doesn't feel like control. It feels like your own reasoning. But it's not. It's their tone, their timing, their phrasing, all designed to steer you exactly where they want you. And the scariest part, you think you got there on your own? The Zonick Effect. Ever had a song stuck in your head that never finished? Or a movie that stopped before the big ending? That mental itch you can't scratch. That's the Zonick Effect. It's a powerful psychological trigger that makes unfinished things linger in your mind, demanding attention. But now imagine if someone used that feeling to control you, left things just unresolved enough to keep you anxious and hooked. That's not just a brain quirk, and it's a manipulation tool. Named after Bluma Zygarnik, a Soviet psychologist, this effect was discovered when she noticed waiters remembered unpaid orders better than paid ones. Incomplete tasks stick in the mind. This is why marketers love cliffhangers. Every TV episode ends on a twist, making your brain crave closure. That's not storytelling, it's a trap. It makes you binge watch, scroll endlessly, click links just for the what's next. But it gets worse. Manipulators use the Zonick Effect to trap people emotionally. A boss might hint at a promotion but never confirm it. A toxic partner walks away mid-argument, leaving you spiraling for answers. A political figure stirs up fear but never offers a clear solution. They all use the same method: keep things just unfinished, enough that your brain can't stop chasing resolution. The scary part is that you don't realize it's happening. You think you're the one who's confused or impatient, but really, someone else is pulling the strings by leaving things open-ended and letting your mind do the rest. The Pygmalion Effect. Picture this: a teacher walks into a class believing half the students are gifted and the other half are average. No one's told. No special treatment. But by year's end, the gifted ones outperform the rest. Why? Because belief alone shaped their behavior. That's the Pygmalion Effect, when expectations turn into reality. The name comes from a myth about a sculptor who loved his statue so deeply it came to life. Psychologically, it means that what others expect of you changes how you perform. Believe someone will succeed and they rise. Doubt them and they fall. The 1960s Rosenthal and Jacobson study proved this. Teachers were told certain kids were intellectual bloomers. They weren't. They were picked at random. But the teacher's subtle encouragement made those kids perform better. The scary part? This effect can be used for control. A manipulative boss might act like you're always messing up. You begin to believe it, and soon you do mess up. A partner constantly reminds you how lucky you are to be with them. Eventually, your self-worth shrinks. Even whole communities suffer. When they're treated as lesser, they start to believe it. This isn't just about motivation. It's about how belief shapes your destiny. And when someone else controls that belief, especially in a negative way, they gain quiet, total control over how you see yourself. Reframing failure. Reframing failure might sound harmless, but it's one of the most damaging psychological tricks. It's the act of twisting how you see your mistakes, turning simple setbacks into personal flaws. Instead of seeing failure as a learning step, you start to see it as proof that you're not good enough. And once that idea settles in, it changes everything. Think about growing up where every misstep made your parents disappointed, not just concerned. Or a boss who treats every tiny mistake like proof you're not cut out for the job. That's reframing. The meaning of failure shifts. It's no longer something that happened, it's something you are. This kind of manipulation goes deep. In North Korea, if you fall short at work, it's not just a bad day, it's betrayal. You failed the state, your family, your leader. That kind of pressure forces obedience. But you don't have to live under a dictatorship to experience this. It happens at jobs, in toxic relationships, even in casual conversations. A partner might say, "You always do this," making you feel like the problem. The more it happens, the more you believe you are the failure. And that belief keeps you stuck in jobs you hate, relationships that hurt, lives that feel too small. The darkest part? You stop blaming the person doing this to you. You blame yourself. You work harder, shrink smaller, stay silent, not because you want to, but because you're terrified of being the failure they told you you are. But here's the truth. Failure isn't personal. It's not permanent. And it definitely isn't something someone else gets to define for you. The halo effect. First impressions don't just matter. They can completely distort reality. That's the halo effect, a psychological trick, where one positive trait makes someone seem better in every other way. It's subtle but dangerously powerful. Imagine a courtroom. Two people on trial for the same crime. One is clean-cut and confident. The other looks nervous and unkempt. Without hearing a word, most people will trust the first one. That's not logic. That's the halo effect. Our brains love shortcuts. If someone is attractive or charismatic, we assume they're smart, kind, even honest. If they're confident, we assume they must know what they're talking about. This happens in politics and where charm beats policy. In relationships, where red flags are ignored because someone seems so nice. Even in history, dangerous people were protected by their charisma. The effect doesn't just shape perception, it shapes reality. Celebrities are forgiven scandals because they're admired. The unpopular ones are judged instantly. It's why luxury brands hire beautiful models. You don't just see clothes, you see status. And that glow makes you think the product is worth more. But there's a darker side. The halo effect protects abusers, empowers manipulators, and blinds people to the truth. Once you see someone as good, you'll defend them, even against facts. You'll explain away bad behavior. He's a good guy. She didn't mean it. Breaking this illusion takes effort. You have to question your instincts. Ask yourself, what am I not seeing? Because sometimes the people who seem the brightest are just hiding their shadows in plain sight. Time constraints. Imagine you're in a luxury watch store, staring at an expensive timepiece. The salesperson leans in and whispers, "This is the last one we have, and I can only keep this price for 5 more minutes." Suddenly your heart races. You didn't plan to buy anything today, but now waiting feels like losing. This is time constraint, a pressure tactic designed to make you act before you think. When there's a ticking clock, rational thinking is the first thing to go. The brain sees scarcity as a threat, triggering the fear of missing out on something that may not come again. This releases stress hormones and pushes you to act fast. Marketers, scammers, and even cult leaders know this. By limiting time, they create a false urgency that makes you feel like you must act now. This trick works so well because of decision fatigue. When rushed, people don't take time to think through options. They go with instinct, and usually, that means doing what the manipulator wanted all along. It's why limited time offers sell so well. Car dealers say a deal ends today, but the same offer is still there next week. And this tactic isn't just used in sales. In high-stakes negotiations, leaders set last-minute deadlines to force decisions. Cults tell new recruits they have to commit now or lose their chance forever. Even interrogators use time pressure, firing off rapid questions so the person can't think clearly. One of the darkest examples is in scams. Think about those urgent emails from fake banks or agencies. You're told your account is in danger, and you have just minutes to fix it. You don't verify, you panic. You give up information. The fear feels real, even if the threat isn't, and that's what makes this so dangerous. Fake urgency creates real obedience. Studies show that when people feel rushed, they're more likely to follow orders, even if those orders go against logic, morals, or instinct. So how do you fight back? Pause. When you feel rushed, step back. Ask, is this really my last chance, or is someone making me believe it is? Because when someone tells you to decide right now, what they really want is to stop you from thinking at all. The contrast principle. Picture this. You walk into a store looking for a suit. The salesperson smiles and shows you a top-of-the-line designer piece way beyond your budget. You shake your head, it's too much. Then they show you a second option, still pricey but cheaper than the first. Now it feels like a deal. Without knowing it, you've been pulled in by the contrast principle. This is a mental trick that changes how we judge value. We don't measure things in isolation. We compare. A $100 shirt sounds expensive after seeing $20 shirts. But after looking at a $500 jacket, that same shirt feels reasonable. The comparison changes your entire view. It's fast and subtle. Salespeople, realtors, and negotiators all use it. High-end car dealers do this too. They start by showing the most expensive models. After that, a lower-priced car seems affordable, even when it's still costly. But this trick goes way beyond shopping. It's used to steer behavior, beliefs, even how we treat people. Think of a company proposing harsh new rules. Long hours, fewer benefits. Workers push back. Then management offers a compromise. Still bad, but not as bad as before. And now employees agree. But that less bad policy was the goal all along. The first one was just there to make it look good. This happens in politics too. A law is introduced in its worst form. People get angry. A softer version comes next. Everyone calms down and accepts it. Not because it's good, but because it's better by comparison. This also happens in relationships. A person treats you poorly, cold, mean, distant. Then they offer a little warmth. A kind word, a small gift. Suddenly it feels huge. You feel grateful, loyal. But that kindness only looks big next to the cruelty. This is emotional control, plain and simple. What makes it so powerful is that it feels natural. You don't even realize you're being influenced. The contrast trick works silently, and once it's in play, it's hard to resist. So how do you fight it? Stay alert. Ask, am I judging this on its own? Or because it looks better next to something worse? The danger isn't just that people use this on you, it's that you won't even notice it when they do. The Ikea Effect. Ever wonder why people keep awkward handmade gifts? Or why building furniture makes it feel more valuable? It's not the item, it's the effort. That's the Ikea Effect, a psychological trick that makes us overvalue things we had to work for, even if they're not that great. The name comes from the furniture brand, Ikea. Their flat-pack design means you have to assemble it yourself. This lowers costs, but there's a deeper effect. When you build something, your brain sees it as more valuable, even if it looks the same as a pre-built version. It's because effort creates emotional attachment. You poured time into it. You can't let go. That's what makes the Ikea effect so powerful. But it's not just about furniture. Manipulators use it in darker ways. In jobs, employees are asked to contribute ideas. They become emotionally tied to the company, even if they're underpaid. In toxic relationships, one person keeps working for approval. The harder they try, the more attached they become. Cults use it too. They give new members hard or embarrassing tasks. The effort deepens their investment. Now they're less likely to leave or question anything. That's the trap. The more work you put in, the harder it is to walk away, even when logic says you should. Gamblers keep betting to win back their losses. People stay in one-sided relationships. Workers stay loyal to companies that treat them badly. Because the mind says, I worked too hard for this to be meaningless. And this doesn't just apply to things or people. It can shape whole belief systems, politics, conspiracies, movements. When someone puts in effort, research, debate, emotional energy, they don't want to admit they were wrong. They'd rather double down than let go. So the next time you feel tightly connected to something, ask yourself, do I love this? Or did I just put in too much work to leave? The Decoy Effect. Think about your last purchase. Did you really choose what you wanted? Or were you guided there? Many of our choices aren't made freely. They're shaped by a clever trick called the Decoy Effect. It's subtle but extremely effective, used by advertisers, marketers, and even political strategists. It works by presenting three options. But one of them isn't real, it's bait. Let's say you're at the movies. You can get a small popcorn for $3 or a large for $7. The jump in price feels steep. Then they add a third choice, medium, for $6.50. Suddenly, the large feels like the best value. You choose it, but you were never supposed to pick the medium. It was just there to push you toward the large. This tactic isn't limited to popcorn. Subscription plans use it all the time. The best value plan sits next to one that's way overpriced, making the middle option look smart. Restaurants do it too, pricing menus to steer your eyes to one dish. Even in politics, a third candidate can exist only to split votes and shift outcomes. But the effect goes beyond shopping or voting. It shapes how we see worth, fairness, and even right and wrong. Have you ever heard someone say, "It's not that bad compared to what the other person did"? That's the Decoy Effect again. By introducing a worse option, bad choices look good. And it gets worse. Over time, your brain starts defending these manipulated decisions. You'll say you made the smart pick. You'll justify your vote. You'll think your sense of fairness is intact. But you weren't acting freely. You were guided. So next time you see three options, slow down. Ask yourself, which of these is here to be chosen? And which one is just here to trick me? The placebo effect. You take a pill. Soon your pain fades. Your body calms down. The medicine is working, or so you think. But what if that pill was just sugar? No real drug, no active ingredients, yet your body responded anyway. That's the placebo effect. It's strange, powerful, and more unsettling than you realize. In the 1950s, a man named Mr. Wright was dying of cancer. A doctor gave him a so-called miracle drug. It worked. His tumors shrank. He recovered. But then he learned the drug was useless. His cancer came back and he died soon after. His mind had healed him, and then it killed him. Studies show that belief alone can change the body. People given fake painkillers release real chemicals. Patients improve after fake surgeries. Even those with Parkinson's have seen relief just by thinking they got treatment. But here's the scary part. If belief can heal, it can also harm. This is the nocebo effect, the evil twin of placebo. If someone tells you a harmless pill will make you sick, your body will create real symptoms. Headaches, nausea, even serious illness. This has been used in curses, scams, and medical fraud. Fake doctors sell phony treatments. The person feels better until it's too late. In drug trials, people sometimes get real side effects just because they expect them. So think about that. How much of your pain, healing, or sickness was caused not by the world but by belief? And who shaped that belief? A doctor? A commercial? A stranger online? Because if your mind can create reality, then the most dangerous thing isn't what you take, it's what you believe you took. Loss aversion. You're given two choices. Option A, you gain $100. Option B, you lose $100. Which one hits harder? For most people, the sting of losing feels way more intense than the thrill of winning. This is loss aversion. It's a mental bias that makes the fear of loss stronger than the desire for gain, and it influences your decisions more than you think. Take casinos, for example. When you win, they light up the room with sounds and colors, training your brain to crave that feeling. But when you lose, silence, no big reaction. That's because you're already hurting inside, and people don't just walk away after losing. They chase it. They gamble more, trying to erase the feeling of loss. But this trick goes beyond gambling. Marketers and companies use it too. Ever seen a sale that ends in 10 minutes? Or a message saying only 2 left? It's not always about needing the product. It's about not wanting to lose the chance. Even in toxic relationships, manipulators use this fear. They don't just give you something. They make you fear what it would mean to lose them. So people stay, not because they're happy, but because leaving feels even scarier. You might think you're making free choices every day. But if you look closer, many of them are just reactions, efforts to avoid a loss you didn't even realize you were afraid of. The power of touch, a handshake, a pat on the back, a light brush on the arm. These gestures seem harmless, maybe even comforting. But what if they weren't? What if they were a way to get inside your mind, to shape your decisions without you ever noticing? This is the power of touch. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it works. In one study, waiters who briefly touched customers on the shoulder earned significantly bigger tips. Another showed that job candidates who got a confident handshaker were rated more favorably, even if they weren't the best fit. Why? Because touch is ancient. Long before words, it was how humans connected, how we showed trust, submission, and authority. That instinct hasn't gone away. Now it just hides in plain sight. When someone touches you lightly, your brain reacts. It feels connection, safety, even respect. A doctor touching your arm makes you more likely to believe their advice. A politician's handshake builds instant trust. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. It works even when you don't want it to. Con artists and manipulators use it. A cult leader's hand on your shoulder. A scammer brushing your arm. A boss guiding you through a door with their hand on your back. These aren't just gestures. They're quiet displays of control. And your brain often goes along with it. What's more chilling is that knowing this doesn't protect you. Even now, your brain will still respond the same way. So the next time someone's touch makes you feel calm, open, or agreeable, ask yourself if it's comfort or if it's control. The foot and mouth effect. You might think being friendly and polite always works in your favor, but sometimes those little social moments, saying "I'm good," "thanks," or chatting about your day, can open the door to manipulation. This is the foot and mouth effect, a psychological trick that turns your own words into a trap. In a well-known study, researchers asked people how they were feeling. Later, those same people were more likely to say yes to unrelated requests. Why? Because once you say something positive, like "I'm doing well," you feel the need to act in a way that matches it. If you say you're feeling great, turning someone down right after feels off. So you go along with what they ask, even if you didn't want to. That's how salespeople get you. They start with small talk, ask about your day. You respond politely. Suddenly you're looking at a product you didn't plan to buy. It happens in police work too. Casual conversation lowers your guard. You start answering questions just to keep up the friendly tone. And before you know it, you've said more than you meant to. This trick works because humans crave consistency. We don't like saying one thing and doing another. So once we speak, we feel pressure to back it up with action, even if that action goes against what we really want. And this tactic isn't just used on individuals. Political movements use it too. They start with broad, agreeable messages, like "we want a better world." And once people nod along, they're led toward more extreme ideas they never planned to support. So how do you protect yourself? Notice the shift. When a conversation starts off overly friendly and leads into a request, pause. Just because you said something nice doesn't mean you owe anything. Don't let your own words be used to make decisions for you. The Endowment Effect. The Endowment Effect is a psychological trick that makes you overvalue anything you feel belongs to you. Once something is in your hands, or even just feels like it is, you assign it more worth than it actually has. Imagine this. You're handed a nice pen at a store and told to try it. As you hold it, write with it, it starts to feel like yours. Then they tell you the price. Suddenly it feels worth it, even if you wouldn't have looked twice before. That's the Endowment Effect, and it's everywhere. Free trials, test drives, try before you buy all rely on this trick. Once something feels like it's yours, giving it up feels like losing. But it's not just objects. It applies to ideas, opinions, and relationships too. People cling to beliefs not because they're right, but because they feel like part of their identity. Letting go of an old opinion can feel like letting go of a piece of yourself. That's why arguments rarely change minds. Even in relationships, the effect shows up. People stay in unhealthy situations because they've already invested time, emotion, and energy. Leaving would feel like a loss, even if staying causes more harm. This trick is powerful in the hands of those who know how to use it. Cults, manipulators, and con artists rely on it. They make people feel ownership over their suffering, their loyalty, their place in the group, so leaving feels like giving up something precious. And the worst part, knowing this doesn't stop it. Your brain still reacts, still holds on. The only way out is to ask yourself, do I value this because it's good, or just because it feels like mine? Mind control. Imagine if your thoughts, beliefs, even your memories could be quietly reshaped without you knowing, not through force but through slow, subtle influence. Fair sounds like a thriller plot, but it's real, and it happens all the time. Look at the Stanford prison experiment. In 1971, volunteers were split into guards and prisoners for a fake prison, and no one was forced to act a certain way. But within days, regular students turned cruel. They punished others, degraded them. And the prisoners? They gave in. They believed the role. What changed? Not orders, but the environment. That's how mind control really works. First, it isolates you. It pulls you from your usual world until the only reality that matters is the one you're in. Then it repeats ideas until they feel like truth. Familiarity breeds belief. If you hear something enough times, it starts to sound real. That's why propaganda works, why cults flourish, why people defend ideas that hurt them. Add fear to the mix and the trap tightens. Fear makes you seek protection, and anyone who offers that becomes your guide, even if they're the ones creating the fear. Leaders invent enemies. Manipulators turn you against loved ones. The goal is always the same: keep you scared so you stop thinking. What makes this so dangerous is that it doesn't feel like control. It feels like safety, like clarity, like truth. And by the time you realize it's not, if you ever do, you've already given up more than you know. The power of playing dumb. There's a saying that you should never underestimate the power of a fool. But what if the fool isn't really a fool at all? What if playing dumb is actually a clever tool used to influence situations, make people feel safe, and gain control without anyone realizing it? The power of playing dumb is one of the most overlooked psychological tactics, yet it has been used for centuries by politicians, criminals, and even ordinary people who want to manipulate others. A famous example of this trick is the detective Columbo. He looked messy, spoke slowly, and acted almost clueless. Suspects always underestimated him and thought he was just a harmless officer. But then he would catch them in their own words. That's the core of this method. When you look less smart or capable, people relax and start to speak freely. They believe they're in charge and end up giving away more than they should. So how does this work? First, playing dumb makes someone seem harmless. If a person looks like they don't understand what's happening, others don't see them as a threat. Most people naturally want to take control when they believe someone else is struggling. That makes the so-called dumb person easy to ignore or overlook. This works well in deals, conversations, and even courtrooms. By pretending not to notice things, the manipulator collects details without drawing suspicion. People start over-explaining, adding information, and exposing their weak points without knowing it. Another version of this is selective incompetence. That means acting like you don't know how to do something, so others will step in and do it instead. It's common at work. Someone might say they can't prepare a report, cook a meal, or fix a device, but they actually can. They just don't want to. By pretending they don't know how, they push the task onto someone else. It's a quiet way to control things. Others do the work, and the manipulator avoids the effort while still getting what they want. This tactic also works in social settings. Some people act confused just to avoid blame. If they're caught lying, they might say they misunderstood or didn't get what was being said. This makes the other person second-guess themselves. Suddenly, the one who's holding the manipulator responsible seems unfair. The blame shifts and the manipulator walks away clean. But the worst part of this trick is how it can wear someone down. Picture trying to explain something again and again to a person who acts like they just don't get it. No matter how clearly you talk, they stay confused. Over time, you get tired, angry, and maybe even start doubting yourself. That's the whole point. It's a simple form of mental warfare. The confusion isn't real. It's a tactic to keep you stuck in a loop while the other person stays in control. This happens a lot in politics too. Leaders might act like they didn't know something happened. They'll say they weren't told or don't remember. That delay gives them time and space. It also makes the truth harder to prove. If done well, it lets them avoid questions while others waste energy trying to prove what really happened. In the end, playing dumb is all about power. It's a way to break trust, lower people's guards, and quietly shift control. It makes others take on things they shouldn't. And it reminds us that just because someone looks confused doesn't mean they are. Sometimes, the one pretending to be lost is the one guiding the rest, exactly where they want them to go.